The Seeker's Path. From hitchhiking in Hawaii to exploring some of the world's greatest mountain ranges. Join Selomon on a journey of self-discovery as he shares some of his greatest adventures. Follow along as he narrates true stories that are filled with mystery and excitement. Learn how you can find your own truth and gain insights and wisdom from his unique perspective. This is The Seeker's Path, where adventure awaits.
Previously on The Seeker's Path. My first panic attack led me to having a Kundalini awakening, which inspired me to quit my jobs and begin a epic soul-seeking journey to the Rocky Mountains. I left Coldwater, Michigan after saying bye to my mom, and I got 100 miles when problems derailed my journey. I got my problems fixed, and my hope was restored as I left for the mountains until a very special phone call shifted my journey. Episode 8. The Flatlands. My phone began ringing as I was driving down a countryside road. I pulled it out of my pocket while I had my eyes on the road and answered it without looking to see who it was. "Hello?" I asked. "Hey man, it's Cord," said a masculine voice. "Hey buddy, what's up?" "I was checking to see where you were. You said you were heading out west toward Colorado, and I was wondering if you'd like to come stay at my house for a week," he said. I was road tripping without any plans except to eventually get to the Rocky Mountains, and my best friend from elementary school was offering me a place to stay for a week. It was a pretty easy answer. "Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to," I responded to him. "Sweet. Where are you now?" "Well, I just got out of Columbus, and I'm heading west now. Should be getting out of Indiana soon." "Well, let me know how long it will be until you get here." "Yeah, I can do that when I find out for sure. Thanks for calling, Cord." "Yeah, man. I'm excited to see you." "Me too. I'll text you when I find out how far away I am," I said. "Sweet. See you soon. Bye." We hung up the phone and I put it into the seat next to me. It was about 45 minutes until I saw a rest stop when I pulled off of the highway. When I checked, Cord's house was about 12 hours away from my current location, so I texted him how long it would be. At that point, the sun was beginning to set and the sky was fading into a dark glow. I decided that I would drive for a few more hours and get closer to Cord before I'd pull off and sleep in the car. Before I left, I pulled another can of food out from the box in the back seat of the car. It had a handle on it, so I didn't need a can opener. Eating lukewarm soup from a can? The first time, it wasn't so bad. But having nothing but lukewarm soup since I left Coldwater, it was becoming more and more unfulfilling. I was beginning to really desire warm food. But at that moment, I didn't have any, so I just closed my eyes and I tried to imagine that it was actually warm soup. I ate as much as I could and went to the bathroom before getting back on the highway. I drove for 3 more hours before I started to fade in and out of consciousness. So I stopped for the night at a rest stop. When I parked, I got out and looked around. There were plenty of semi-trucks mixed in with a few vans and few cars. It felt so good to get out and stretch. I went to the bathroom for the very last time that day. I was woke up to the sound of running engines and speeding cars racing down the highway in the morning. There were more cars and less semi-trucks this time. I got out of the car and did some stretches before drinking some water. I went out by a small pavilion and took my shoes off, and I allowed my bare feet to feel the grass, to feel the ground. The weight of what I was doing with this trip, and where I was going, was really beginning to finally sink in. This trip was something that I had dreamed about doing, but now that it was actually happening, it was like I was in a movie or a video game. Soon I would see my longtime friend for the first time in years on my way to the Rocky Mountains. I mean, who would have thought? I laid there in the grass for as long as my bladder would allow me before I had to get up and use the bathroom. When I was finished going to the bathroom, I packed up my gear, made sure everything I needed was in arm's length, and put my friend's address into the GPS. I had about 9 hours to go. It was 10:33 a.m., so a 9-hour trip, with stops included, meant I would be arriving probably around 12 to 1 a.m. Good thing I had no schedule to keep. I texted Cord to let him know I wouldn't be arriving until late, and I got back on the road. There's some kind of excitement to starting the day heading out on the road. But after a few hours, that excitement turns more into, man, I just wish I was there already. This is where I was at after nearly 4 hours of driving. The highway I was on was very long. It was a very flat road, and it seemed to stretch for an infinity. I was on I-80 going through Iowa, the flatlands. The thing I enjoyed about driving through Iowa was that there was a lot of sun, and it reminded me of a simple life. From what I saw, it was about 95% farmland and 5% big cities. Corn was everywhere. I was driving with my hand out of the window when I saw a giant, beautiful beam of light shining from the sun through some clouds. I had a sense that I was exactly where I needed to be, doing exactly what I needed to do. I felt safe and protected. Ironically enough, when I felt that, my car began to shake. It wasn't terrible shaking, but it was enough to notice that it wasn't like that before. The shaking did not stop after another 45 minutes of driving, so I pulled off into a rest stop. Looking underneath the car, nothing seemed to be out of place or broken. The shaking that I felt, it felt like it was coming from the very center of the car, so I checked out the muffler. The muffler wasn't super tight, it was a little loose, so I went to a local hardware store and got a toolkit that included all the traditional tools like a screwdriver, flathead, hammer, etc. It also came with a small drill. I got some cheap clamps to keep the muffler from bouncing around. I paid for all the tools and went outside to fix the muffler. While I was struggling to get underneath of it, because I didn't have any kind of lifts, a man walked by me and told me to just drive the 2 front tires up onto the curb. I took his advice, and it seemed to work out well. I was underneath the car screwing the clamps into place when the car shifted very slightly, and all of a sudden began to roll backwards. As it rolled off of the curb, it rolled onto my arm. I panicked at that point, fearing it would break my arm and my trip was going to be over. I squeezed out from underneath the car and miraculously, my arm, it was alright. I had a small scratch on it and it hurt a little bit, but my bones seemed to be intact and I could move all of my fingers. Whew, breathing a sigh of relief. I finished the repairs and headed back out on the road. It seemed like everything I did had no effect on the shaking. My car was still shaking, so I figured maybe I just didn't do a good job holding the muffler in place. But then I got onto a back road that was made out of dirt, and all of a sudden the shaking stopped. And everything was fine. So I figured maybe the repairs that I did actually did work. The dirt road that I was on eventually turned into a paved road, and the small shake returned. I pulled off on the side of the road to see if the clamps had loosened up or fallen off. Everything that I had done was still intact. The clamps were in place. Nothing had changed. I thought maybe I didn't make it tight enough, so I got out my camera, set it up in front of the car, and started working on getting the car fixed up. I was there for maybe 15 minutes. And I was on the side of a one-lane road, a small road. There were a decent amount of cars going by, but nobody stopped to help me. Ideas and thoughts about how humans are so disconnected began flooding through my mind. What happened to the day when people would stop and help each other out? Why are we always rushing to do things that we don't want to do, to go places that we don't want to go? Why do we always look past each other when we walk by? I was getting so worked up and passionate about human connection. I walked up to the camera and said, "I've been here for almost 20 minutes and nobody has stopped to help me. I wish we could see how important it is to help each other out," I said. I rambled on a little bit longer before I went back under the car and finished taping, drilling, and clamping everything that I could. As I was packing up, a state trooper pulled up behind me. When he got up to me, he said, "You having some car trouble?" "Yeah, my muffler's loose. I wanted to tighten it up a bit," I replied. "All right. You get everything figured out?" he asked. "Yep, I was just packing up and getting ready to head out." He looked over and noticed a big sign that I had taped onto my window that linked the YouTube channel I was posting all my videos on. "So what's this all about?" he asked me, pointing to the sign. "I'm traveling across the country with no plans, except to make it to the Rocky Mountains. It's my attempt at finding meaning in life, I guess," I responded. "Oh, well, good luck," he said, tipping his hat. The trooper got back in his car and pulled away, beeping twice in quick succession. The sun was just beginning to touch the horizon when I got back on the road. It was around 8 p.m. and I still had a ways to go to reaching Cords. I was still in Iowa, but I was getting closer to the border of Nebraska. The muffler would only shake if I went over 60 miles per hour, so I kept it around that speed. Watching row after row after row of corn began to put me in a trance. When it got dark, I turned the music up to help keep me awake. Soon enough, I saw a sign for Omaha, which was right on the border. It was a big city located right in the middle of the Missouri River. There was a fair amount of traffic, but nobody had to slow down. except for me, but that was because of the muffler more than the traffic. I decided to stop to go to the bathroom so I could brush my teeth, gas up, and make one final stop before reaching Cord. I stopped at a gas station first to fill up. The bathroom there was pretty disgusting, so I left without using it. On my way back to the highway, I saw a McDonald's, and I knew that they would have a bathroom. The McDonald's bathroom wasn't the nicest, but at least it was much cleaner than the gas station. In the bathroom, I brushed my teeth, and I took a selfie also to post it on social media. When I got back outside, I wanted to stretch around and move about. There was a perfect tree to climb right in front of my car. I couldn't miss out on that opportunity, so I busted out the camera, set it up on the tripod, and faced it up toward the tree so that when I climbed it, I would be in frame. I was in the tree for a few minutes just checking out the city in the background, feeling the air on my skin. I kind of felt like a pirate on top of a mast, looking out over the ocean. Someone had parked next to my car when they got out and looked up at me. "What are you doing up there?" they asked. "I'm just up here doing what I love," I responded. "I hear you. You gotta do what you love," they said as they waved and went inside. I climbed down and dropped from a branch. I walked up to the camera and said, "When you're out in the world, don't be afraid to take a moment to do something fun. Doesn't matter where you are. I'm in this parking lot, but I'm still finding something I love to do." I got back in the car and checked the GPS. I had about an hour and 15 minutes left, and it was just turning 12 a.m. I sent a text message to Cord to let him know. His message back said, "Cool, see you soon." The last hour of the trip went really quick. By the time I took a few turns, I was already a few minutes away. I quickly set up my tripod and camera and started recording as I was pulling up to Cord's house. I parked, turned the car off, and took the camera off the tripod. I walked up to the front door where Cord was waiting. "Hey man," he said when I got close enough. "I made it," I replied. "Yeah, I'm glad you did." We hugged and he led me inside and showed me where I would be staying. After talking for a while longer, I grabbed my bag that had all my clothes from the car, and I set it down in the room that I was going to be staying in. Cord said goodnight, and he went back into his room. It was a great feeling having a warm bed to sleep in after spending a few nights in the car. The excitement of being at my old friend's house had faded quickly, and I finally fell asleep. The next few days after that included some really fun adventures during one of the area's worst floods. So tune in next time to learn what happens. My nugget of wisdom for today. When you're traveling long distances, especially through areas that don't have the most exciting views, sometimes it can be hard to appreciate the moment. But don't let that stop you from enjoying yourself. There's always something that you can find or do that will bring some joy into your life. So thanks for tuning in here to The Seeker's Path. And until next time, this is Selomon signing out.